We were in Niue, which is north of New Zealand, south of Tonga. Boof! Instantly, most of my right-hand side was completely numb, gone. Well, I got interested in diving because I was failing at school. And when I was 11, I was watching Cousteau, Hans and Lottie Haas, and Mike Nelson from Sea Hunt on television. It was Mike Nelson who got me fired up with those amazing adventures. I can still see myself kneeling in front of that telly, going, that's for me. It was just a crazy dream. You know, could have said flying to the moon, but it was this lunatic dream about I'm going to be a diver somehow. And then I did a Ford apprenticeship down at Ford's at Dagenham, toolmaking apprenticeship. That's where I learned to dive. And then finally, there I was at Portland Bill. You know, Easter 1969, standing there in my homemade wetsuit. It was me first diving. I was actually a diver. I didn't know anything about exploration or science or anything like that, but all I wanted to be was a flipping diver. And I was a diver, and I shall never forget it. When I'm asked the question, how many dives have you done? I don't know, it's many thousands of dives, because for a number of years, I was the director of the US Navy's scuba diving program there in Great Lakes Naval Training Center. So I was teaching recreational diving programs that were full of professional Navy divers. And I was running classes after classes after classes. One year, I've forgotten what year it was, I was one of Paddy's top producers, you know, because I was just banging out so many qualified divers. So yeah, I've had a very active diving life. We were in Niue, which is north of New Zealand, south of Tonga, and we were anchored in Beveridge Reef, which is an unbelievably beautiful atoll. You know, there's the whole Pacific thumping out there, and you're in something as flat as the floor of this room. And I had to dive, shallow, easy dive, 25 meters, to be with sharks, to be filmed with them, to tell the story. So we went out in the Zodiac, went down to 25 meters, the sharks were there, it was a dead easy, beautiful dive, I swam with them. And the trick was for me to come up to 10 meters and wait for the media team to get ahead of me so they could film me coming into the boat. So I hung out there at 10 meters, went up, said my bit to camera about how great it was, and as I come up into the Zodiac, boff, I got this hit, instantly was paralyzed on my right side, even partly in my chest I felt horrendous. I said to Manu, our underwater cameraman, hey, there's something wrong. He took my watch off, he called the boat, put me on oxygen, they started taking my gear off, and I run back to the boat. You know, it was probably only 5 minutes, it felt a long time. I got onto the main boat, it gave me tons of water, aspirin. Our Hyperlight 1 was ready for me, and I was popped in it, and I was so happy to be in there. You know, it was just like, wow, I'm in, and I knew I was going to be looked after, but I was still worried what was actually going to happen to me. Not long into the treatment, you know, once I was at treatment depth, again on the O2 obviously, I started to feel good, and I could feel, and I still remember moving my foot around and my leg, and I could begin to feel my hand better, and I wasn't worried about my chest, and I was comfortable in there. You know, I was rolling around a bit, I was listening to what was going on. The great thing with it, you can hear everybody chatting. So I was listening to the treatment steps, which I'm familiar with anyway, but it was nice to hear them going properly. I didn't want to be in there telling them. And I felt good, but still worried. Obviously didn't dive for the rest of the expedition, but I did some surface work to be filmed and to finish the rest of the content. So that felt good. I got back to England, was diagnosed with a PFO, which is a hole in the heart. And you know, apparently we've all got holes in the heart, we're born with them, but most people, they heal up. But in mine, it didn't, which meant that air is escaping. I had no idea. So you see on the ultrasound when they're doing it, they inject and you give a big push and you can see like champagne running through. Horrendous feeling. So I got that fixed and I'm now back diving. So, but for some sensible diving, I'm lucky it was a sensible profile, and the Hyperlight 1 unit, I wouldn't be here today. What I would say to people if they were unsure about need of a chamber, even if you're asking that question, it means you need one. And the best thing to do, you know, when people think about a recompression chamber, you think about an enormous, big, white metal unit. But there's these Hyperlights right here, Hyperlight 1. It rolls up into a couple of Pelican cases, And if the vessel you're on doesn't have its own chamber, or there isn't one very, very close by, then these are the way to go. Well, my experience with the PFO, this accident in Niue, really opened up my eyes. The benefit of diving conservatively is the thing. Having, a chamber on site, of course, and people that know how to use it. And it made me jump because I've been diving over 50 years. 1969 I started to dive. And without, much thought, I was doing quite aggressive dive profile. I was diving deep. I was making lots of repetitive dives. We often didn't have O2 on board, and we certainly didn't have a chamber on board. And then later in life, I was diving a lot under the ice. I used to love diving under the ice and still do. All those dives in Antarctica, all those dives up in the Arctic, very close to the North Pole, and long dives. And I would, even though, I'm a qualified diving instructor, I had that feeling of invincibility going on. Well, I missed a couple of stops. I was over my time there. Still seemed to be all right, And then when it did bite me, it really made me jump. So it's one of those things, isn't it? You feel very, very experienced diver, happy to be on that slightly aggressive side of the profiles. Sense of invincibility, and brought up very short now to realise, come on, conservative profiles are there for a reason.